Hello, my name is Alex Romero from the GASB Learning Solutions. On this week's Genuine Learning blog, we will be discussing the GASB's exposure draft for the 2025 Implementation Guidance Update. First, we need to have an idea of what an implementation guidance update is. So this update is to provide guidance to help stakeholders by clarifying, explaining, or elaborating on the requirements under the statement. It's really going to be looking at certain transactions and how to actually apply the statements. These questions and answers are going to be Category B guidance in the hierarchy of GAP. The exposure draft was issued in mid-November with comments being due January 24, 2025. This implementation guidance contains questions and answers that GASB stakeholders have inquired about or issues that have been experienced while they've been implementing those new GASB pronouncements. We also see GASB adding questions and answers about new pronouncements where they think there might need to be some further clarification. We also see amendments that provide further guidance to previously issued GASB pronouncements. In total, we see 19 questions and answers in this exposure draft. I'm not going to go through each of them, but I will go through the categories and list how many questions are in each of those categories. So our first one here is cash flow reporting. We have one question that's around the operating income not being presented in operating activities in the statement of cash flows. Next, we have our basic financial statement and management's discussion and analysis. This area has the most questions at 8, and topics include the specific format of the MD&A, interest expense and revenue, and subsidies. Next, we're looking at leases with 3 questions. Those are our third party issuing conduit debt, remeasurement of a lease liability due to a lease modification, and also looking at the lease term of a vehicle under 2 different scenarios. Next, we move to statement number 91, conduit debt obligations, looking at a component unit issuing debt on behalf of that primary government. Statement number 100, accounting changes and error corrections, has 4 different questions around the change in capitalization threshold, adjustments or restatement presentation in the aggregate or individually, and changes in a major fund to a non-major fund or a fund that no longer exists. Then we have statement number 101, compensated absences and knowing that future pay rate. And lastly, we have statement number 103, where we have one question, and it's around the component unit implementing statement number 103, financial reporting model improvements at the same time as the primary government. We have our amendments to our previously issued questions and answers, the first coming from basic financial statements and management discussion and analysis. That is question 7.9.6, and this is title to an asset always equivalent to ownership. Our next question is from statement number 54, fund balance reporting and governmental fund type definitions, question Z.54.30, and this is, are governments required to use special revenue funds to report restricted or committed revenue sources? So we have a couple of different effective dates. We have for statement number 103 question, it would be effective upon issuance of the final implementation guide. And then all other questions would be effective for fiscal years beginning after June 15, 2025. We also have some differences on the application, whether it be prospective or retroactive. So we have prospective application for questions under that statement number 100, accounting changes and error corrections, so those 4 questions. Then we have retrospective application for all other questions except for what we addressed above as statement number 103, that financial reporting model improvements. So comments are going to be due January 24, 2025, and I will note the implementation guidance does state that any comments that they receive addressing topics that are not included in this proposed implementation guide will not be included in that final implementation guide resulting from this project. However, those issues will continue to be monitored and may be considered for inclusion in a future guide. If you want to read the full exposure draft, you can access it on GASB's website or by following the link in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me today as we examine and explore the GASB's exposure draft for the 2025 Implementation Guidance Update.